And we know that it's very important that, especially in this climate that we're in, that we always have the tools and the resources that we need to continue to be to have make sure our communities have access to funding, and grant writing is part of that. So, Nisha, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you share a little bit with everyone, so we can learn today. Thank you so much for coming.
Got it. Thank you for the warm introductions, Joy. Before we get started, I'm definitely excited to be here with each of you on this day, and thank you for devoting your time. You could be anywhere, could be doing whatever with your time, so definitely respectful and appreciative of your time. Before we hop in and get started, I'm going to share a couple tools with you just to optimize the experience, make sure that you have some reflective tools are a reflective guide where as we go through this presentation, you're able to really start thinking and having your creative juices flowing. And so I will share a worksheet with you. I'm gonna drop it in the chat. Once I drop that worksheet in the chat, you can download it. I encourage you to have this tool called Sega. It's SEDGA. If you're on your computer, if you want to fill it in as we go, I would encourage you to pull up that your browser and pull up that system that allows you to edit this document. And then once you confirm that you have received and ready to go with your tools, we can jump right in. Give me 1 second. I'm going to drop that in the chat shortly. Here we go right here. And it's actually going to come across as a Google Doc, and I am sharing it now. Okay.
Did you get to drop it in?
Yeah, I am sharing it now. For some reason, I don't have access to the chat.
Well, do me a favor, share with me. We'll make sure we share it. I mean, if you just email me, or whatever, we can get it on our end so you can go
Oh,
ahead and go with the presentation. I don't know if that's possible. Oh,
okay.
so we'll just go ahead and go with the presentation, and then we'll make sure we share the information.
Okay.
I see Georgia and Memphis and Louisiana because I know where people are from. So I appreciate you all joining us.
Okay. So, actually, I don't know why I'm having a lag. I do apologize for that, but I was able to drop
We see
the
it.
drive in the chat. It seems like okay. So if y'all can pull that up, I'm having a lag on my end. If y'all can put up the worksheet and we can hop right in and get started. Um, I'm having a big class, but whatever.
I don't know if your screen was okay. We see mission and vision now on the screenshot, Nisha, just so you know.
Okay, I don't know why I'm having a lag, but we're just gonna hop right in. I pretty much know the content, so we're gonna go roll with the presentation. Um, okay. Alrighty. So again, I do apologize for the technical issues. My computer usually don't give me this much malfunction, but no worries. We're gonna just jump right in. Again, my name is Nesha Brown. I am the founder of Conquer Consulting Group. We work with nonprofits and mission-driven organizations to help them amplify their impact in underserved communities through smart stories, smart strategy, smart style, and smart systems. And all this means in a nutshell is that we help them develop infrastructure to be able to optimize their systems and sustain their funding that they receive from their donors. And so that's what we've been doing for the past 7 years. Again, I am excited to be here with you. My zone of genius is specifically narrative building, storytelling, and creative grant writing. And so I am here to teach you exactly what I've learned and applied within my years of being a seasoned nonprofit consultant. And so nice to meet everyone. I know you are in different places of the world. I am currently in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but I am from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I am so excited to be here with you. And again, forgive me and give me grace for the technical issues that I had this morning. This is going to be definitely a valuable workshop. And sometimes I'm a firm believer of the enemy tried to distract and prevent great things from happening. And so, again, thank you for your patience. Um, the idea of this workshop is to dive into 4 key pillars of writing a successful proposal. And so the 4 pillars this workshop focuses on is grant writing fundamentals for the first couple of minutes or the first section of this workshop format. The second pillar is proposal writing skills. The third pillar is partnerships and accountability. And then the fourth pillar is long-term sustainability. And so we're gonna follow along. We're gonna do like is this workshop is intended to be super engaging. I'm going to have space in the chat. If you have questions, drop your questions there. I do create space towards the end of the workshop to go through Q&A. So we're going to hold off until the end of the workshop. As I go through the presentation, make sure that you are, making mental notes of things that you want me to expound on later. I'm more than happy to do that. And yeah, we just gonna have a great time with the space that we share on this day. And so you should have your worksheet by now. And the key takeaways of this workshop is by the end of today's session, you will be able to discover the secrets to craft compelling grant proposals that win, master the art of positioning your organization for funding opportunities, and learn how to amplify your impact, because that's what it's about in the communities that you serve. And so, again, I just went over those 4 pillars, and we're going to hop into the first one. And of course, if you stick around and stay for the full workshop, I do have a free ebook that I'm going to share as well. And so that'll be a free download. Once you download it and access it, you'll have some tips and how to discover, not only write an impactful proposal, but strategies to actually find those growth opportunities. And so we'll share a little bit about that towards the end of the presentation. And so now you may be wondering, how am I equipped? Who is Nesha and how is she equipped to help me? Why is she here? And so I just like to set the tone with highlighting my community impact. As I stated before, I've been the founder and CEO of a consulting firm since 2018. We are a for-profit business model, but we do have a social enterprise or social impact component. And with that social impact component, we've been able to raise grant funding to amplify our mission or push forth the things that we care about within the communities that we serve. And so this on the screen, you will see a initiative that we did last year as a co-pilot. We received some grant funding from Louisiana State University, and we were able to develop a community savings program aimed at helping individuals avoid predatory lending by establishing a 6-week emergency fund so they could build a safety net from when they experience like any type of financial shock. And so the whole idea was to help people establish a safety net to avoid like those payday loans, those rent to own schemes, and et cetera. And so this is just one of many initiatives that we've been able to do, even as a for-profit business model. We've been able to secure grants as a because a lot of people think that you have to solely be a nonprofit to receive grant funding, but I've taken a non-traditional route as an entrepreneur where I've been able to incorporate strong, solid social impact initiatives within my for-profit business model, which is called a social enterprise. And we've been able to scale our impact through just developing impactful programming and being able to co-create with the communities that we serve to solve problems and needs. And so sharing a little bit about that's what I'm gonna kind of talk through during our time together today. But just wanted to just give a glimpse of like, why am I equipped to be speaking and training with you today? And so just quickly going over the grant writing fundamentals, we know that the idea is to be able to understand different types of grants and funding sources. I'm going to cover that just a little bit. This workshop, I'm gonna start right here. This workshop is intended to be very engaging and very, very valuable and informative. And so you may hear me say things that are not on the screen, but they are a part of this workshop. And so it's designed this way for you to get in the habit of like taking notes and really working through your sheet. And like I mentioned earlier, if you need something, a quick tool to help you edit that document I provided, you can go ahead and pull it up using Sega. It's sedga.com, and you can upload that document and begin filling it out as we go through our session today. Okay, and then also if you need access to that document, it has been provided inside of the chat. Okay, so pillar one, this is pillar one, understanding different types of grants. So when we think about grants and funding sources, we understand that grants come from different places. So we have our private foundations, which is more so beginner friendly. This is for our nonprofits who's been in the game for about 0 to 2 years, who's just getting started. And so these are small local grants. They range from about $2,000 to $25,000. Don't require a lot of infrastructure, easy to obtain through relationship building. And then you also have your large national, international grants, which range between $10,000 to $500,000, which requires a little bit more infrastructure, as well as, whether it's your team, your programming, and et cetera. And then you also have your corporate grants, and then you have your government grants, which are more complex and reserved for those nonprofits or mission-driven organizations who has a solid skin in the game, who have like the partnerships, the programming, the metrics, the qualitative data. And so we understand that your local grants, the purpose of this workshop we'll heavily unpack ways to discover local grants, state grants. I'm not going to get into federal grants because that's the whole workshop in itself. But just again, starting at this local state, um, in this local space will be like the meat of our conversation today. And so when we think about researching and finding these grant opportunities, we have online databases such as like, your Grant Watch. That's one that we even I even use as a consultant. Grant Watch, Instrumental, Grant Station, and then Foundation Directory. These are, of course, paid platforms that may require a subscription, but depending on how serious you are about finding these opportunities, I'm sure you're more than likely willing to make this investment. And like I always say, your business will grow to the extent that you're willing to invest in it. And so if you find that you have a strong social impact initiative and you want to see what's out there, and I also say even using some of these tools are helpful for when you're trying to co-create with your community to see like, okay, what's being funded right now? Like, what are people putting dollars towards? Because that's changing based on a political climate. So you want to also understand like what focus areas that funders are actually putting money into, and that can inform you even if you don't apply for that grant at that moment. That can inform you what type of programming to do, what type of social impact initiatives to incorporate within your for-profit business model, and etc. And so again, Foundation Directory, Grant Watch, Instrumental, Grant Station. Those are even paid tools that I use as a consultant when I'm doing research and development for the nonprofits and mission-driven organizations that I work with. We also use grants.gov, but because I'm not diving into federal funding on this day, I'm not going to emphasize that one. And also another well-kept secret or gem are libraries and other nonprofits. So other nonprofits within your organization, they offer grants as well. So being connected to the nonprofits within your proximity, especially if they are foundations or just bigger nonprofits who's doing great work, most times they receive federal funding and able to distribute that funding out to like the smaller grassroots organizations who are launching co-pilots or doing some type of community initiative. And so staying plugged in is always key. um can we get Okay. Sorry, I got distracted. I was looking at the chat. I'll look at the chat towards the end. Again, if you have questions, drop them there. We're going to roll with Q&A towards the end. Also, Google search tips. I always tell people when it comes to local and state grants, Google is your best friend. You want to also get very intentional about whatever. And we're going to get into grant writing. I just always throw the resources out at the top of the workshop, just so you can know where to go when you implement these grant writing things, or what strategy to use, because that's what it's about: applied knowledge, implementing what you learn. And so the goal is for me to give you something tangible that you can walk away with, even if your starting point is just researching and seeing what's out there and what foundations and corporations are actually funding. And so when it comes to Google, you want to make sure that you are using specific keywords like private foundation, family foundations, which is big, family foundations. Because I found so many just looking, using that keyword, grant making foundations. And of course, don't limit it to your city. Use like your nearest largest city as well, because some of those foundations are in your larger cities, but they wouldn't mind funding your project either. My favorite one is Form 99 Research. And so you use the National Center for Charitable Statistics to find IRS forms 99 filings, and then you look at page 11 of a foundation's form on that form 99 list of organizations they have funded. And so again, this is just the research component. You're basically just identifying foundations. You're looking at their 990 filing specifically page 11, which can be found again on the National Center for Charitable Statistics website. And you're before you even build that relationship or before you even reach out to them or even submit a letter of intent or proposal, you're literally acclimating yourself with what have they funded in the past? Where do I fit? What can I design to fit what they have funded? And so this is very important. I always, even the clients that we serve, we always do deep research before alignment, before even trying to apply for a grant. Because you don't want to start applying for funding blindly. A lot of people, when they think about grant writing, their idea is to throwing paint on the wall and hoping that it sticks. That's really not the best way to do it. It's really to do research ahead of your proposal submission to find that sense of alignment or to inform you on how to best align what you're working on to fit the requirements. Even, of course, if it don't pull you away from your mission. And another one, my favorite one, and again, we're still in research, but my favorite one is LinkedIn to find key contacts, like tracking down funders and decision makers. Most times, our strategy is when we can locate these foundations by searching like different keywords and using different search engines. Most times these foundations have like their staff or their board of directors on their websites and all of the things. And so just looking them up on LinkedIn and going connect with them and having conversations, engaging with their content, that has been really helpful. Not only within our organization in terms of like our social impact component, but even when we assist our clients with like donor management, donor stewardship, and being able to find those donors and etc. And so just to wrap what I just shared up, again, this is just, again, grant writing fundamentals. This is the very basic things, mindsets that we need to have before we even get into grant writing. And so, I like to unpack this at the beginning. And so, going back to the research tools and grant search platforms, I know I shared something earlier. I shared some, but just unpacking a little more of that, like Candid, that's a great one. Foundation directory, I said that one. Grant Station, another great one for corporate sponsorships is the Shareway. You also have Grantable. You also have Flux.io. That's a grant tracking software to keep you organized as you are applying for grants. And so it's so many tools. And like I said, I am this will be recorded, I'm sure, and reshared. And so if I'm talking too fast and you got to go back and watch it, these are some very solid platforms, again, that may require a subscription or just a free period to get a glimpse of what they offer. I always say, I encourage you, that's a great way to start unpacking your research. So, like I said, phase one, understanding different types of grants and funding sources. Also, how to find that. That's kind of what we covered. And then before I'm going to enhancing proposal writing skills, I do want to kind of start talking through thinking like a funder, because so in the perfect world, we've done the research, we've identified these local and state foundations, we've developed our program and our planned out our program in a way that it aligns with them. Or we're in a space of, okay, it's time to submit the letter of intent. Okay, it's time to, even if they don't require a letter of intent, or it may be time to like start looking at that proposal, that RFP, or that, not RFP, but that request for proposal, how to start getting ready to submit that application or submit that grant proposal. And so one of the mindsets I love to train on is thinking like a funder. How do we think like a funder? How do we have that mindset of a funder? And so I will briefly touch on that. Because this is like the second phase of once all of that is together. Like I always say, once your foundation is together, how do we start thinking like a funder and understanding that funder want to see clear outcomes in a strategic plan for how funds will be used. And so if we do the research, in that foundational phase, and we are and I'm sure on your worksheet this is very important, because even when you do your research and you're in that deep in that research phase, and you outlining your programming and etc., on that worksheet I share, it should have, and I'm not looking at the worksheet so I may be wrong, but it should have on there a section where it asks you, or it prompts you to create a budget. How would you spend $10,000? How would you spend $25,000? How would you spend $50,000? You need to know that before you even apply for a grant. So as you're planning out your programming, you should already have an idea of how you could spend those bucket of money, because that's like the common grant amount that we've even seen, especially in the beginning phases, like in that local, on that local and state level. And so again, it goes back to that strategic, having a strategic plan for how the funds will be used, instead of always feeling like you have to come up with these things as you're applying for the grant. And so we're going to talk about like having how to create like a solid boilerplate, because that's kind of what it is. Like, it helps alleviate you having to always start from scratch each time you apply for a grant. It's more so you're just basically, you've got a well planned out document, and you're following a more copy and paste approach. And you're tweaking, of course, within that document, but it's pretty standard. And so we're going to talk about that a little later in the workshop. But going back to thinking like a funder, understanding that funders want to see clear outcomes and a strategic plan. So my favorite saying is, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And I always say that because you want to make sure that we are strategically planning. And if you, in another one, if you don't know how you're going to use the money, you can't expect them to know either. And so understanding that also some funders are moving towards a reimbursement model, meaning that they will only pay invoices or reimburse expenses after purchases are made. And so that's, again, thinking like a funder, understanding like what are the requirements of this grant, and do I actually have the capacity as well, because this will help you not waste time applying for grants that don't align with like your current bandwidth and capacity. And so do you have the capacity, do you have the financial cushion to do a reimbursement type model when it comes to a grant? Because all grants are not just given to you. Some of them are, we want you to invest in what you say you're going to do, and once you can show me that receipt, then we're going to reimburse you. And so I always try to include this in the thinking like a funder phase, because some people, they apply for a grant without understanding that this was a reimbursement grant, and then them also understanding that they don't have the funds, and so they end up tarnishing that relationship. And so again, you want to be crystal clear and do enough research to understand what type of reimbursement model that this grant entails. And so like for example, we did a social impact initiative for the mayor's office, which was a $10,000 reimbursement grant. We had to fund all of everything for the programming, and every month we had to submit receipts and invoices to that program officer to account for that funding and also to be reimbursed. And that's not, it's always, when you're dealing with, even when you're dealing with small and local governments, it's not always swift. It's not always on time. You just got to think about all of that. So that's why reimbursement models, understanding that is so important, which is kind of piggyback off of what I said about the research phase. And so what fund, also understanding, thinking like a funder, what funds cannot be covered. Most grants do not cover general operational expenses outside of the program scope. So if it's not in your program budget, most grants are not going to cover like general operational expenses. That's more like, if a lot of people, even the people who come inquiring about our service, their ideas is, I'm starting a business and I need a grant to start my business. That's, you likely want receive a grant by just saying that, because then that's your general operational experience expenses, and it shows the funder that is like the idea is that they want to see sustainability. They want you to be able to hold your own operationally without relying on their funding, because they understand when I pull this funding back, what happens to the business, if the impact is still going to be made, and etc. And so you have to understand that general operational, unless stated, because some grants do, but unless stated, grants typically do not cover general operational expenses unless stated. And so we just want to make sure that, again, in that planning phase, that program phase, when we are creating our budget for our how we're going to use this funding to amplify or to optimize our programming, you want to be very mindful, or you want to be very strategic with those numbers as well. Okay, so next phase, and this is I'm quickly going through the content, because this is still, we still haven't gotten to proposal writing skills, but I'm just giving you the again, all foundations, and then when we get into proposal writing, it's going to all come back full circle. So as I'm talking, I do not have the guide sheet pulled up, but as I'm going through the presentation, the idea is that you're kind of filling in those gaps, and we're going to kind of have like an open discussion in a second. Okay, so aligning with funder priorities. Again, we're taking this step by step. I am, in my brain, I like to do milestone by milestone, because I personally feel like the overconsumption of information can sometimes paralyze us, and it can prevent us from taking that next step. But if we can kind of strategically map out steps by milestone, it's easier to actually get to like the full staircase, if that makes sense. And so going into aligning with funder priorities. So as you've heard before, you've done your research, you've at this point where you've done your research, you've kind of looked at the funding priorities currently, you're developing your programming, you've done your budget for these different amounts, tiered amounts, and now you're really focusing on really and truly aligning with funder priorities. And so understanding this still falls under thinking like a funder, because funders look for alignment between your mission and their funding priorities. So whatever you say, even if it's a social impact initiative, a lot of people think, oh, I need to a lot of people think, oh, I got this really good thing that I want to do. I got this really good impact that I want to make, and I just need to off back start at a 501c3. That hasn't, I can only speak from experience and take what I say with a grain of salt. That's full disclaimer. But what has worked for me is I've gotten awarded a lot of grant funding under my for-profit business model. What has worked for me and even some of the clients that I serve is like adding that social impact component under your business model, asking yourself, what problem do I solve beyond the service or product that I sell? And so when you have that strong social impact initiative, that can be your co-pilot. That's technically your co-pilot. You're testing and measuring. You're seeing if this program have the potential to work, or do this thing have the potential to work. And with that, with you bringing a social impact initiative under your business model, if it's successful, you could spin it out. You could spin it out as a nonprofit. But when you spin it out, most times if you've done your due diligence, you already have a couple funders in your back pocket. You already have maybe some corporate sponsorships, and you already have traction. You already have people who went through your programming under your for-profit business model. And so it makes more sense to spin it out once you've gained that traffic, because you're not just starting a 501c3 and then trying to do all of that at that time and then becoming frustrated that it's not working and etc. And so I feel like under your for-profit business model is the perfect time to just test and measure when it comes to social impact. And I would briefly share a quick story Someone came to me and they was a hairstylist and they was like, I want grant funding. I need some grant funding. And I was like, okay, what you do? She said, I'm a hairstylist. Am I eligible for any grants? And I was like, what you need those grants for? And she gave me this long list of things. And I was like, no, you have to be more strategic than how you're what you have to be very strategic. And I told her we ended up working together. And what happened was I asked her, I challenged her. I was like, what impact do you want to make beyond you selling those wigs or you doing the hair? And so it's a long story, but just to quickly wrap it up, we ended up developing a program where she was, and we ended up unpacking through consultations what was near and dear to her heart. And so we ended up developing a program where she was now positioning her company as a hairstylist to create wigs for women who were surviving cancer. And once they completed their treatment, she would provide them wigs, but not only wigs, but a platform for them to share their story to help and encourage other cancer people who are going through those similar pains as they went through and overcame. And so, brilliant idea. And when she did her budget, she was able to include what it costs for her to make 10 wigs for that programming, because programming are specific. I want to impact 10 women who's experiencing cancer, and I want to create them a wig to not only boost their confidence, but also give them a platform to share their stories to impact someone else and to give hope and inspire someone else. And this is a hairstylist. And thinking outside of the box like this, because again, what impact do you want to make above the product? And it can't always be about you if you say you want to do something with when it comes to social impact. And so again, she was able to just take this small idea and it became huge. And now, she's creating these wigs, but she's also strategically adding that to the budget. When you got to submit that budget to that funder, how much it's going to cost for me to create this wig, and not only how much it's going to cost for me to create this wig, how much it's going to cost for me to hire a camera crew, how much it's going to cost for me to get a venue, how much it's going to cost for me to provide them refreshments or whatever. You include that all into a budget, and she created a programming around that. And when she launched, and she also included the marketing ad, how much it's going to cost for me to run ads on these videos to get people to see the impact that my brand and business is making as a hairstylist. And then when she launched it and she ran her ads, people clicked by extension, people clicked on her website and purchased her wig, and she sold out because she put herself in a position where she allowed her impact to drive her revenue. So it's not, yes, she started the conversation with, I need to sell my wigs, I need to make money, I need a grant to, stay afloat. But when we operate from a place of desperation at times, it can cut out our creativity and strategy. And so again, her just taking a step back and really thinking deeply about the impact that she can make. Now her company is thriving from both the social impact standpoint as well as the profit standpoint. And so again, I just share that story just to help y'all understand how you can really integrate social impact even if you have a for-profit business model, and position yourself in a way where you can still catapult and take advantage of grant opportunities. And this is my favorite thing to talk about. And so again, thinking like a funder, aligning your mission and their funding priorities, understanding that different grants and different funders focus on different impact areas. Her specific grant focused on women empowerment, and and some other pillars I really don't remember, but I say that to say different funders have different impact areas. You got community development, you got youth development, you got technology and innovation, you got arts and culture, you got women empowerment, you got health and well-being. You got all of these little buckets of areas that people are willing to fund if you have an idea, and you can not only have that idea, but you can strategically map out that idea and you can execute that idea with the money that they give you, because reporting and compliance is huge, but I'm not going to get into that. I always get ahead of myself, but even that reporting and compliance piece is huge as well. But To wrap it all up, understanding a funder's goal up front can help tailor your program design while ensuring that you stay aligned with their mission. And so the activity on your worksheet was to really think deeply on how can I allocate 5K, 10K, 25K, and 100K. And in funding, in a perfect world, if I was to create this social impact initiative with them, either as a nonprofit, even if it's an existing programming, a new programming, a for-profit with a social impact initiative, what type of program can I design, and what would that budget look like for that programming, and just planning it out. And so now we're in pillar 2. So that's proposal writing skills. But based on pillar 1, thinking like a funder, identifying grants, and developing mission aligned programming. Do anyone have any questions about anything that I shared? Okay. If not, we can hold them to the end, and we're going to keep tracking through for the sake of time. And someone in the chat said, I logged on a few minutes late. Can someone reshare the worksheet link? Miss Joy, I shared it. If you can grab that. Okay, thank you. Okay, so proposal writing skills. This is one of my favorite parts as well. So we talked about all the foundation stuff. And so now we're getting into like, okay, I've done all these niches. So now I'm just ready to, I feel like this person is like, this funder is aligned to what I'm doing. Like, I looked at their 990 form, like they've been putting like $1 million towards this. And I'm like very confident that if I submit this proposal and this programming, we're going to get awarded. And so, okay, so this is best practice for proposal writing. So in this second pillar, we're going to unpack what is grant smithing. That's what it's called, grant smithing, using a boilerplate. So I'm going to tell you what a boilerplate is as well. How to develop a clear and persuasive narrative. How to craft well-defined goals, objectives, and budget. We talked about budgets a little bit. We're going to talk about metrics, sustainability a little bit, because that's important as well. Reporting and compliance. Are you delivering on what you say you was going to do in the way that you say you was going to do it? And if anything changed, are you communicating with that funder? That's very important, because even the clients I've worked with, I've seen them tarnish their relationships with funders for not delivering and not being able to provide quantitative and qualitative data that talks about that aligns with the impact that they initially stated that they wanted to make. And I always give this example: the number of people served is not the same as the number of people transformed. And when we're talking about programming for people, the number of people served is not the same as the number of people transformed. The number of people served can be you doing like a workshop for resume writing, and you got 100 people in this workshop, and they all attended. You count them heads, you count those heads, and 100 people showed up. That's great. That's the number of people served. But the number of people transformed is how many people you took out of that workshop and you worked with them on a case management level, and you really got in their business, and y'all did mock interviews. You provided them a stipend for some interview attire. You held them accountable. You help them apply for these jobs. They reported back to you about their increased salary, whatever it happens. Like you help them negotiate a higher salary. You provided that technical assistance. That's where the transformation is at. That's where your quantitative and qualitative data can. Let me fast forward. You'll likely get your qualitative data from the people that you serve. But the people that you transform, that's where you're going to get your quantitative data. But I'm not going to get into all of that because we're only focusing on proposal writing. But I do want to emphasize that because that'll help with planning as well. You want to be strategic. The number of people served is not the number of people transformed. And those transformations where you can actually measure success is where your quantitative data come in at. And funders want to see 70% quantitative and sprinkling in 20% qualitative. So qualitative is like somebody doing like a video and sharing about their success and all of those things. That's great, but it's not enough to sustain relationships with funders. And so the numbers, the data, you got to know how to merge that storytelling from that qualitative data as well as that data from that quantitative data and be able to present that to be attractive to funders when it comes to sustainability. And so all this is basically just making sure that you're executing or you have a plan to execute the funding and you stick to that plan. So a boilerplate contains 75% of your grant proposal content. Again, 75%. So it's reducing the need for you to rewrite from scratch every single time. So the benefits of a boilerplate is it allows strategic planning, thinking on how funding aligns with your mission. You identify gaps in services, relationships, and even your own infrastructure. Like what systems that I need to put into place? What other relationships should I have? Like even for our community savings program, I had to pitch to like 6 banks, credit unions, for them to provide technical assistance throughout my programming because I knew my team didn't have the bandwidth to do that. And so when you can develop a boilerplate, you can see the gaps that need to be filled and what you need to do to make this program successful because it's going to require more than you. Because grant applications love partnerships, solid partnerships. And so if I communicated that, we actually Chase Bank what became our partner. Chase Bank provided all our technical assistance to our beneficiaries, which the people that we aim to serve. And so that looks great, but we planned that and we foresaw that before we even executed. And so I'm reinforcing this because we have to get out the mindset of you trying to fix the plane while it's flying. You can avoid that if we be intentional about how we are strategically planning. And so again, boilerplate, start with a boilerplate. This is the whole topic that I'm going to emphasize in this second pillar. And so it reduces writing fatigue, copying and pasting. You can refine instead of reinventing the wheel every single time. And so, real quick, key elements of a boilerplate, and I'm gonna go through this real quick for the sake of time. We got about 35 more minutes. Key elements of a boilerplate: mission, vision, and history. Who you serve, how you serve them, why your work matters. Second part of a boilerplate: philosophy and approach. What is your strategy for solving the problem? Why do you use this approach? How do your programs fit together? And what research supports this? Easy. Philosophy and approach. And these are components of a boilerplate. Mission, vision, and history, that's one section. Philosophy and approach, that's another section. Statement of need, data-backed evidence that problem exists.
Nesha, I have a quick statement. We have like 5 minutes left, not 35 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. On my calendar, it said, okay, I'm sorry.
It's
It
one
said
to two.
30.
1 to 2. It's 1 to 2.
Okay. Well, I'll share some of this to Joy.
And we will also have this on Mighty Network. We will also have the get the PowerPoint presentation and share it out. So, but I
Okay.
wanted to let you know so you could adjust.
Okay, got it. Sorry, I thought it was 90 minutes. Okay. So well, even quicker. Mission, vision, and history, philosophy and approach, statement of need, description of your programming, your key partnerships and why they matter, whether it's volunteers, professional associations, contractual relationships, complementary services, and then your tracking outcomes and grant accountability, basically your proof of impact, whatever data collection systems that you're going to use for attendance tracking, follow up with participants, your surveys, your midpoint and final evaluations, and etc. So better tracking equals easier grant reporting. And so I know I went through that really quickly, but Ms. Joy is going to share this presentation with you so you can start developing your boilerplate. And so I quickly just did pillar 3. And pillar 4. Okay. Pillar 4 is long-term sustainability. Funders, like I said before, funders prefer programs that are in 100% reliant on grants. And also you being able to show through your partnership that multiple organizations are investing in solving that problem that you identified. And yeah, and so as far as like documentation, when you think about documentations, if you are a nonprofit, when you're alongside of your boilerplate, when you have a social impact initiative, you can just focus on your boilerplate. But if you're a nonprofit, of course, you want your Form 990, your list of board members, your most recent tax audit, as well as your IRS tax exemption letter. And so that's for our nonprofits. For your for profits, all you need is like a well planned out boilerplate. Um, Also, if you want to, this is, I told you, if you stayed into the end of the workshop, I would give you a free ebook, which is how to win a grant in 3 steps, a quick start guide to spark your funding journey, completely free, no sales, and you can scan it and you can grab that, which will support you with the slides that Ms. Joy will share with you as you continue to work through your worksheet, as well as continue to identify, use that information to identify funders, and even focus areas that align with the work that you are passionate about doing. The final takeaway in this all is understanding that most grant applications ask the same fundamental questions, and that's where you continue to work through your worksheet as well as develop that boilerplate. And then developing that boilerplate will help you save time and focusing on strong data collection and accountability. I know I unpacked that some of that on your worksheet. You have that to reference to, and then building sustainability and partnerships, making sure that you are actually in your community and identifying that gap that you necessarily can't fulfill, but you needed to be fulfilled to make the impact that you want to make in the community that you serve. And so again, that's because of the time, that's really all I have. So if anyone have any questions um in the chat, I don't know,
I
we
think
can kind
one
of
question we had was the names of the actual resources you had that might be in your three stamp grant piece, or you can email that and we can make sure we put it in Mighty Network so people have the
Mhm.
correct spelling of
Okay.
those resources that you highlighted. I don't see any questions in the chat right now, but I personally want to thank you for your time today and sharing the processes of how to get a grant and what we need to look at and dig into so we don't just, as you say, throw things at the wall and see if it sticks. We know that
Yeah.
it's a process, but it doesn't have to always be so complicated and so complex that we get overwhelmed and we get stuck. So
Yeah.
I hope that this was helpful for our audience today. I appreciate you all coming in. Please download the free ebook so you can have more resources. You have the opportunity to have the actual notepad, I mean, I'm sorry, the worksheet that you could actually fill out. And then this presentation will be in Mighty Network. If you're not in Mighty Network, please join us in Mighty Network so you can be connected to Southern Black Girls and Women's Consortium's network and have opportunities to see the Sage Circle replays just in case you missed something. So we appreciate you. We do this every month. And next month we'll be talking about wellness, and we'll have a great speaker on that. So we want to make sure you stay connected with Nisha, uh, and she has that information up as well. I thank you for your time today. Please have an amazing day, and we look forward to seeing you next month. Thank you.
Hi. Miss
Bye.
Joy, did you still need me or did you want me to hang back or?
Oh,
Great
you.
presentation. Thank you so much. Great
Okay, all right.
information.
Well,
Thank
enjoy the
you.
rest of y'all's day and thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you, Misha. I appreciate it. I will follow up with you. If you want to send me the presentation
Yeah.
directly, I